Yo, what's good, my people? Welcome to Wally's Welding World. I'm the Weld Professor. Today, I bring you a little short tutorial on low-high welding on the rollout wheel. So just pay attention, follow along. The next one we're going to be doing is what we're going to be doing next, and that is putting the pup on that piece with a flange. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and cut this little pup that I got right here. It's a little 3-inch pup that we're getting ready to cut off, and we're going to put this pup on a flange on the rollout wheel. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the bottles and get the hose strung out, and then we're going to go over to the hooch and cut it. And then once we get it cut, we're going to go ahead and put it on the rollout wheel and weld it to a flange. That piece actually goes on the 90 that I just showed you. See, there's always some change of service going on out here, and they like to pretty much tell us to build something and then change the idea. So we're constantly making changes, which is no big deal. I don't mind salvaging pieces. One of these days I'll probably have to show you how to salvage some pieces. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and cut the little pup off the pipe and just show you guys what we got going on. So pay attention again, like I said, follow along. This is just a day-to-day task. This is what we got going on. So you notice that he started going one way when he started cutting the torch, and then he started going the other way. That's to give you kind of like a through hole, so that way when you come back to the cut, there's a space there that the pipe could just fall off. I did have the barrel set a little bit high for my helper right here, so we didn't achieve the best cut that we wanted to get, but it's still going to be able to cut it apart, and we're still going to be able to have the little pup. We're going to be able to clean it up on the rollout wheel, then we're going to attach it to a flange, and we're going to make a weld. And that's the tutorial that I'm bringing to you today. The changes out here in the field change daily. We build something, they might not like it, we'll have to cut it apart, add pups, salvage flanges, salvage fittings, just as part of the
I stopped it.
So this is the reducer you see me cut off. This actually will get welded to a piece of pipe about 4 feet long, and then we'll have to put a flange on the edge of that pup. Right now I just tell the helper to put it on the rollout wheel, clean it up, get it ready for the next weld, because after we get done making the pup flange to the 90, then we go ahead and start the other build. And so it's just easier for me to build off my rollout wheel as much as I can. I take in position welds, but I try not to take the in position welds if I don't have to. So I try to roll everything out. This will actually be a rollout. The only in position weld I'll have to make is when I get to the piece and put the pup flange to the 90. I can't roll that out because that's on a 15-foot long. Here's one of the new lenses I got. We're going to go ahead and throw it in my CMR Carbon Series Shorty pancake. I've got it sanded up, I got the lens in it, I'm ready to rock and roll. So I tell the helper, throw the flange on there, let's get the flange on the rollout wheel, let's start making these welds. Because you know me, if I got welds to make, I'm gonna make them. I like to make welds. The last thing I want to be doing is sitting around wondering what I'm getting to build next. It makes a really long day. So I get out here, I turn on my machine. I've already had it on, so it's nice and warm, but I fire it up. I show you here that I put it in uphill mode, stick mode. This is my Miller Pipe Pro 400. There it is, just chilling. So one of the first things I have to do right now is I have to level this up. The 2-hole is not important to me right now, but it is important later on. Make sure when you turn your remote on, the blue light comes on. That just signals you that pretty much that it's going to stay on. If you just turn it on and the blue light doesn't come on, your remote will turn off on you. So let's get into this. One of the first things I like to do is I always like to get a jack under my little piece right here that I got going on. I don't like to hold it by hand. I like to have a nice little jack stand under it, and then I take my spacing gap, which is just a band strap. You guys can cut these band straps or you can buy them off me. We sell these band straps. It's just real simple. This is the gap I like to take, the only kind of gap I take. I don't like to take a wide gap if I don't have to. So he zooms in here, he shows you the gap I got going on. It's a really tight gap. It's the only way I roll. You can learn something from me, but I'm not the best, but I do my best. Even my haters are on here watching my videos, which is fine. I don't care. They're going to learn from me as well too, and I'll teach them even if they don't like me. You see me kind of rub the tip of my rod there. That was just to kind of bust the flux off. Now I have my flange leveled up. Now I take my little shorty Stabila and I level it up. It's a little bit high, so I go ahead and stick my file in here, and I just easily push down on it. You don't want to push too hard with your file because that actually will bust your file. So you need to be careful putting too much pressure on these bastard files because they will bust. They're pretty much just made of, I want to say, I don't even know. Let's just get into this. So I make sure I double check my flange. I make sure it's level. and then I noticed that I had to pull down just a little bit on my file there to make sure that I got exactly the right level. Strike it up, tack it, and put your bottom tack on it. My little helper Brent, he's really good with the camera work. I really like what he does, so he's shooting a good little tutorial right now on this little rollout wheel that we got going on. Like I said before, just pay attention, follow along, see how I'm doing this. I know you guys always ask for the arc shot, but the arc shot is not important. The fit and the fab is knowing how to do this. You can see here, I didn't get into the bead until over there. You can see where it's real humped up. That's where I'll have to grind down to get it back down to the bevel and the landing to make sure that I get full penetration, because right there I did not get through. So I got to make sure that I grind that part down and that I can get through it. If you don't obtain that, then you're probably not going to penetrate all the way and you're going to be stuck. You can see my rollout wheel. You can see how I have it designed. This is just kind of one-of-a-kind rollout wheel. I don't make them like this no more. I got a more effective way of building them. But that's not what this tutorial is about. This tutorial is just to kind of show you the fit up, the weld up. See how I took most of that bead out there and how I got it down. Now that I have my 2 tacks in it, which is called a hinge tack, you need to put those on the side and re-level up the wheel. And again, I take my little shorty and I level it up. It's not where I need it, so I got to bang it around probably and get it where I need it. I think I'm searching for my hammer. Yep, I searched for my hammer. So you can use a wedge. I like to use my hammer. You notice I'm kind of smacking the flange, then smacking the pipe. That's because I don't have my rollout wheel that tight around that fitting there. I could have it super tight, but I don't have it that tight. I make sure my levels are good or close. You want to make sure that both the bubble is inside the 2 lines. You can compensate for it, you know, one bubble touching one line, one bubble touching the opposite line, and then you know at that point you can weld the opposite side to make it pull down to make sure that you get it level. I went a little bit too much, so I have to double check it. I'm always double checking, triple checking, making sure it's exactly where I need it. Now you don't want to be banging it too hard because it's going to come out of the chuck, it's going to drop on the floor, it's going to hit your toes. It could end up possibly breaking the tack if you don't have that strong of a tack in it, but I got it. So I weld the opposite side that I think it needs to pull, because it will pull just a little bit. Again, I like to take a really nice fit, that way I can drag that rod down in there. Fire on the inside, little fire on the outside, but not much. I had to stop there. My hole got a little big. I had to turn down my heat. At this point right here, I got to step it in. So I have him turn me down, step it in. It happens, guys. I'm only human. I'm not a machine. The machine's on the back of my truck. I'm not the machine. But if you cool the heat down just a little bit, then you can stack it in there. You can get a good full penetrated weld. You can see I got a good tie-in in there. I got it all nice and tied in. Then what I like to do is I like to knock the hump down off of where I started originally, because if you try to go into that, you're going to end up pretty much coming to a stop and you might not get the full penetration that you need. See, I just took it down just enough so that way it doesn't become a stopping block for me. And I always fire up about 1 inch to 1/2 inch above where I left off, so that way I can get the rod nice hot burning and then tie into where I took off or left off. You can see here I get a nice little tie-in. Once I tie it in, I go a little bit past the tie-in just to make sure that there's no weak spot behind me. Then I like to go nice and kind of slow. Make sure if I have a hump, I go slow over the hump, and then once I get it all knocked down, then I can kind of let the wheel go and let it grind. We got a lot of projects in the work right now, so it is what it is. We got a lot going on. So this is low high all the way out. That's a 60-10 bead. 1/8 inch is what I use. After that, I pretty much step it up to 1/8, 70-18. even when I'm welding, I ask my helper if it's glowing on the inside, because I want to make sure it's glowing. If it's not glowing, then you might not be burning out all the trash that you need to be burning out if you left it behind with your wagon trails. So I try to burn typically hotter, not too hot, but hotter than I originally am most of the times. On the cap, I might cool it down a little bit just to get that pretty stack. But you notice here, it looks like the bead's all the way in there. And that glow shows the bead, you know, as I travel all the way around the pipe. So I was able to go all the way around the pipe with that one rod. After I do that, I grab my wire wheel, I wire wheel it all down, and then I hit my grinder right where I see. Pretty much what I do is I go all the way around it, and then right when I get to my start, where I started, I break arc, because I know I can't melt into it because I drop a bunch of slag off on it. So it's a good point to show right here that it's really hard to get that tie-in. See the little void right there? So you got to grind it down. Pretty much grind the start down enough so you can fire back up and burn out. See, just grind the little void out, fire back up. Now this is a trick that I always like to do, which you could pick it up and take off like I do. I fire back up, I finish filling it in, and once I get it filled in, I start capping. It's one of the best tricks I've ever learned, and it's kind of stuck with me over a decade of welding pipe on rollout wheels. And so therefore I'm still glowing because I'm still hot. I think I had my helper turn it down just about 5 degrees, and that was it. Still, again, I'm using 1/8 rod, 7018. It's cold process pipe, so it has to be welded with 7018 after the bead. This is just kind of flat position welding. This isn't in position welding. I keep the puddle on top at all times, and I just drag the pipe around my rod. Now I'll have to break arc because, again, there's slag there. So what I'll do is I'll knock the slag off of my fill part till it gets to the part where I started capping. And then I'll fire back up and continue capping. I'll roll onto the fill, and then once I get to where the cap is, then I'll go onto the cap just a little bit and I'll break arc. Next up, I'll grab my file and I'll knock the slag off it. I like to try to keep my file as flat as I can and dig into the weld, not into the material of the pipe, but into the weld, just to kind of give it a nice uniform look and appearance. It's not much digging going involved into the pipe, it's just more dig into the weld, so that way you can get the toes kind of knocked off and get a good straight line. A lot of people say they use the bevels for a landing. Well, when I flush out, I've consumed all of the bevel. There is no there is no top of the bevels to see, it's just rod. So I run my rod on top of that flat surface fill and pretty much just try to keep it as consistent as I can. I can't keep it always consistent, but I do my best. That's my tutorial today for my little rollout. Stay tuned for the next one because I'm going to go weld it in position. If you like the video, please like it. Comment below if you got questions. Tell your friends about it and share it, and definitely subscribe to the channel. Till next time, we'll wrap you later. Peace.